Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Alderman Ashour?
Here.
Alderman Berry?
Here.
Alderman Bevere?
Here.
Alderman Goodman? Alderman Hoffman?
Here.
Alderman Wilson?
Here.
And Alderman Davalos and Alderman Widener are excused.
Thank you. Will those who are able stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. Now is the time that we set aside for citizens' comments, but if anyone didn't sign up, you can speak on particular items of the agenda during the business of the meeting. And I don't have anyone who has signed up yet, so just let us know when we get to that point. Moving on to officials and staff comments, we'll start with the Chief of Police for the department acknowledgements.
Thank you, Chairman. We have two awards that we received recently for events that we take part in every year. And the first is a national award for 2018 for National Night Out. And I think it's particularly noteworthy to comment that this year, 16,790 communities nationwide participated in National Night Out. And this is a national event. And with that, the National Town Watch Association chooses winners in different categories of suburbs by the population numbers. And what they look at is the total involvement of the community. They look at the business partnerships that are involved there and the attendance, as well as how the event is advertised and what have you. And I'm proud to say that this year in the category of 5 to 15,000 population, Warrenville came in number 23, and that's nationwide. There were only 3 other communities in Illinois that were even noted for this, and that's LaGrange Park, Oak Brook, and Lincolnshire. So 4 communities total with a population of 5 to 15,000 received the award for 2018 for National Night Out. That'll go up in our display case over at the police department. And the other is an annual event that we take place in, and that is the United States Marine Corps Reserve Toys for Tots program. And the police department participated in this, and a real thanks to all the members of the community who donated items for kids in the area. And what they say is, dear friends, your kind and generous support for Toys for Tots 2018 helped us to approximately give 2 toys each to 27,471 children this past Christmas. In total, 51,588 toys were collected from 58 qualifying agencies. So we got a shout out and a thanks from DuPage County Marine Corps League number 399. And again, this is an annual event that we participate in every year, and we'll be back there again, as well as National Night Out. So thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Chief. I'm next going to go to Finance Director Dahlstrand.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just wanted to point out some changes that have been made to the city's e-pay service. E-pay is a system we've used since 2007. It's offered through the State Treasurer's Office. It's a means by where residents can pay their water and sewer bills online with a credit card. As of last Thursday, the provider or the behind-the-scenes operation for online or for e-pay changed. It's accessible through the city website at warrenville.il.us. There's a link here where you click online payments right on the homepage. A screen will then pop up that shows you that it's e-pay. It's a convenient and secure transaction every time you do it. There are some new options available on here. You can now make a one-time payment, or there are a number of people in town who choose to pay with ePay regularly. They can now establish an account where we'll store their information so that the next time they go in to make a payment, they don't have to enter all that again. It'll be stored on there for them. Another significant change is we will now accept Visa through ePay. We were not able to do that through the prior administrator of that program. So now Visa is available as an option, as is the Discover card, MasterCard, and American Express. Also, under the prior administrator, the fee was 2.35%. That has now gone down to 2.25%. That is charged to the user who makes the payment. It is not absorbed by the taxpayers of Warrenville. It's paid by the one making that payment. It's 2.25%, as I said. There'll be a minimum charge of $1. So anything up to $45 in your payment would be that $1 charge. Finally, we are now also able to offer pay by phone, which was not an option previously. It's called an interactive voice response system, still again through ePay, but now you do have the ability to pay through the phone. You'll need your account information to do that. The phone number for that is 888-750-5945. You can still call City Hall and we can transfer you directly to that. Again, it's 888-750-5945. But if you call City Hall directly, it's 630-836-3050. We'll transfer you to that line, and you can make your payment online, or I'm sorry, through the phone.
Thank you, Kevin. And if anybody goes to the City of Warrenville website, they can find that information there or contact us if you have any questions. Thanks for that information, Kevin. All right, other officials and staff comments. City Administrator Coakley.
One thing I wanted to remind the citizens and everybody here, if someone asks you, it's very cold this week. It's going to get a lot colder given those temperatures. If someone is lacking heat in their home or where they live, they need a warming center. There's information on our website about places you can go during the day. And of course, if you have any emergency after hours, call 911. They'll get in contact with the right officials here and get you set up, get you to a safe place where it's warm and can help you out with that, whatever the circumstances are. But for daytime things, you just need to get warm. You can go to places that are listed on our website. Again, for emergencies, dial 911 anytime.
Thanks for that reminder. Assistant City Administrator White.
Thank you. I also found out this afternoon from Waste Management that due to the cold weather expected for Wednesday, they are going to be delaying garbage pickup. So the Wednesday pickup will occur on Thursday, Thursday pickup will occur on Friday, Friday pickup will occur on Saturday. So for anybody that is at home watching, that's also good information to have. We are putting it up on the website and the Facebook page as well.
Thanks. Yeah, that's good information to have. I was going to talk about the I We Live Alone reminder. I know we've had a couple of check-ins lately with people who participate in that program, but I think given the very severe weather that we're expecting this week, this might be a good time to remind people that they can join that program. You do not have to live alone. It's I or we live alone. If you want the police department to check in with you when there are severe situations, just to make sure that you're doing okay, you can contact the police department and the city through our website and sign up for the I We Live Alone program, and they'll check in just to make sure everything's doing all right. It's not an invasive or time-consuming thing. I think it's just contacting you by phone. So that's something to keep in mind. Secondly, I wanted to announce that Fermilab is having their family open house on February 10th, which is a kid-friendly event with hands-on science exhibits at Wilson Hall. It's entirely free, no registration required, although there are some fun activities where they want people to sign up in advance. If you want specific tickets for a particular tour, you can find information on their website, fnal.gov. And it's going to be a fun event, 1 to 5 p.m. on February 10th at Fermilab. Any other public comments? Public officials? Yes. Alderman Widener.
Yeah, once we get behind the cold weather, it's important to recognize that being outside in the snow can also be fun when the weather cooperates and the temperatures are above the dangerous levels that we'll be recording on Wednesday and Thursday, and that the Forest Preserve offers inner tubing down the slopes of Mount Hoy, and that many of their trails are groomed for cross-country skiing, both classical and skating. And I think they have an ice fishing derby coming up, and I'm sure the ice will be thick enough this year to be able to conduct the ice fishing derby. So check the Forest Preserve's website. It's all these different events will be listed there. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think that's all. Let's move on to the business of the meeting. We'll start with item 1, the consideration of our fiscal year 2020 Tourism and Arts Commission Hotel Tax Grant recommendations from our lovely TAC committee, and we'll start with Assistant City Administrator White.
Thank you. Each year, the city council funds a certain amount in the budget for the hotel tax grant program to encourage tourism and various events within the community and programs within the community for arts. The council approved a projected budget amount of $150,000 for fiscal year 20. There is some information in the backup material specific to the recommendation memo from the Tourism and Art Commission Chair, Monica Johnson, who's here with us tonight, and she is going to provide some additional information and details about tax recommendation for you all.
So a Happy New Year to all of you. I haven't seen you since we started the new year. And this is a very exciting time for all of us on the Tourism and Arts Commission, because after working for a little over 4 months on all of the grant applications, we are ready to present a recommendation to you for the fiscal year 2020 Hotel Tax Grant Program. This year we had 15 applications, and we were excited that 3 of them were for new projects. The requests totaled $116,778. Just to compare a little bit, last year's request totaled about $13,000 more than that across 16 projects. So after reviewing all of this year's applications, we would like to recommend funding for totaling $113,489. We're excited about the projects that were given to us to review, and we believe that the funding will help provide a variety of events for the enjoyment of local residents as well as out-of-town guests, who will in turn be supporting our local businesses and our hotels. So I'm hoping you had time to look over the packet a little bit that give all the details with all of the numbers, and the first part of the packet is a breakdown of the funds and how we're recommending each grant request be funded. And then the second part describes each of the projects with a little bit of detail so that you have a insight into what the projects are about. So, do you have any questions for us?
Any comments or questions? I thought some of these new requests sounded like an awful lot of fun. Certainly, some of the things that we've funded in the past and we're funding again are also a lot of fun. I'm not saying only new things sound like fun, and I haven't been able to participate in quite all of them, so looking forward to the theatricals, for example, and some of these other programs which we may not have been able to do every year, or some requesters who've come back after having not participated in the past year. I did have one question about the Warrenville and Bloom totals. It didn't look to me, just adding up the event, tourism, and arts numbers, as if those numbers added up to the total recommended amount. Because it's 31 plus 1 plus 1 would be about 34, and the recommended amount is 32 and a half. So I just wondered.
Total. Yeah. So the question was, what was taken out?
The category breakdown may be slightly off, but the recommended amount is $32,499. That total is correct.
Okay, so that was just subtracting some T-shirts and,
Correct.
okay. Okay, just wondering which category it was from, because having moved a lot of the Warrenville and Bloom money from the tourism to the event category, because we're going to be entering an America in Bloom this year, which is hopefully going to be exciting. I was just looking at the category breakdowns more often and thought, gosh, that doesn't add up.
Yeah, we'll correct that for the city council meeting before we present it next week with the final numbers.
Okay, thanks. Alderman Weidner.
Yeah, you assembled quite a list here, and it's exciting to see the 3 new events. And I was wondering if, for our viewing audience, that you might just give a brief description of the 3 new events that people will have to look forward to,
Okay.
beginning with the Paint the Ville project.
Okay.
Thank you.
The Paint the Ville event is brand new, and it was offered by the Historical Society, and they would like to do it in partnership with Warrenville and Bloom. And I'll just read this because it will be more succinct. The Historical Society is proposing a plein air painting competition, and for any of you who hear the term plein air and you don't know what that means, it comes from I think mostly the Impressionist period in the 1800s, where paint came in tubes for the first time, and they didn't have to take minerals and oils and all kinds of things to make their own paint before they started their work. So that meant that things were portable, and they could take all of their things outside with them, and they could paint outside rather than sketching outside and then having to do all of the work inside in the studio. So it was a very exciting time in the history of art. So this competition means that the artists will actually be painting outside, and it will be something that people will be able to watch happening, because they won't just show up at the event with finished artwork. People will be able to watch it being created right there. So that one is especially exciting, I think. And it says the competition would include at least 3 plein air events in Warrenville over the summer of 2019, with one event corresponding to the American in Bloom Judges' July 2019 visit. The painters would submit their work for exhibition at the museum in the fall. So that one will be exciting to look forward to. And the second new one is a prehistory exhibit and lecture. And that one it says the grant would fund promotion of a new Native American artifacts exhibit with a lecture presentation on prehistory in the area, which would include a hands-on demonstration. This would allow the Historical Society, who is the group who submitted this event to us to consider, to gain momentum for an archaeology kids program they're working on with the lecturer, who's a local archaeologist, and his name is Dale Simpson Jr. So that's also something that's very different from anything else that we've ever had to consider. And the last new one is called Lunchtime Live, and that's a proposed children's summer concert series. And they offered the idea that studies have shown an overwhelmingly positive effect of great music upon the human intellect and spirit. The grant would fund 3 children's entertainers performing once per month during the summer months at Summer Lakes Park. So that's also, all 3 of these events are just completely different from each other. So that's exciting.
Thank you. Clerk Larson.
Thank you. On behalf of Warrenville and Bloom, I'd like to thank the Tourism and Arts for granting our grant request, and wanted to let you know that the flowers have been ordered last week, and excited we're changing the colors up a little bit. We're going to do 60 hanging baskets this year, and the Williams Road Bridge planters will be back. So thank you so much for your support.
Oh, it's so nice to think about flowers right now.
Yes, Alderman Berry.
I just wanted to say thank you for, or to the people who are on the Tourism and Arts Commission. I'm the council liaison, and it's a pleasure to work with them. They don't take this lightly. They're very serious about how much money is given, who they give it to. They go through each and every page of a, like, at least 20-page example from each grant applicant. And they're very serious about making sure that we can give out as much money as we can. We don't like to say no, but there are certain things that we do have to say no about. And if there are questions, they are very diligent about making sure that the applicant comes in, that they review it with the Tourism and Arts Commission, and that's why this takes 4 months. It's not exactly an easy process. So the binder that we get is about this thick, and there's a lot to look at. So I want to thank all the members for their very hard work and dedication to this commission. Thank you. And especially Monica, who does an excellent job.
I just want to second Alderman Berry's thanks to the tech commissioners. I think that, I mean, I look back on how much time the city council used to have to spend on these things before there was a tech commission to specifically look at this grant program, and just the meetings that I can remember. I wasn't on the council at that time, but I can still remember these long, 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 long meetings. And so we really appreciate you guys doing this, and we know it's a lot of work.
Thank you. And I neglected to say that even with the total that we had requested of us, a little under 117,000, even though that was well under the amount, that was in our budget, we didn't just say everybody can have everything. We, really looked through. It took 4 months to go through each and every application and really make sure that we were, doing the best that we could with the money that we were awarding, or hopefully recommending. So,
Thank you. Any more questions or comments? Alderman Berry? Motion?
Oh, sure. Be happy to do that. I'd like to make a motion to recommend the city council accept the Tourism and Arts Commission recommendation and award $113,489 in hotel tax grant funding to various applicants per the Tourism and Arts Commission recommendation memo of January 17th, 2019.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. One more comment from the mayor.
I just wanted to echo the comments of the alderman. This is a difficult process, and you did very, very well, so thank you very much.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item 2, the discussion of the Barclay Avenue closure and the petition to reopen the street. Chief Turano.
Thank you, Chairman. This comes about with the City Council being presented with a petition to reconfigure the Barclay Avenue Lakeview Drive intersection where there are currently prohibitions to restrict cut-through movement, particularly on Lakeview Drive. And while this was signed by a number of residents, we felt it was appropriate to send it to the council for discussion and consideration, and if there were any other questions from people that would have attended the meeting. So,
All right, so you're basically looking for direction on how to proceed and what the next step should be, I think.
correct.
One discussion was whether we should have a public meeting to request input or to provide input or to have a discussion, or whether we should assign staff or any aldermen to follow up on the request. So I would entertain any comments, any questions, any discussion that we have. Yes, Alderman Widener.
Yeah, this was originally brought to our attention by the residents in the area that were tiring of cut-through traffic to Butterfield Road. And so the council at that time, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, responded and put up the barricades that are there today. So, I think it would be good to probably gather input from the residents and see if they've changed their mind, and also rely on the department's professional advice regarding traffic flow because a number of conditions have changed now with the widening of Butterfield Road and changes at the intersection of 59 and 56. So I guess I'd be interested in both resident input and also the department's recommendation. Thank you.
Alderman Wilson.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to particularly get the input from the Lakeview residents that live there, since they're the ones that had the original request, I understand, some years back. So I'd like to see it open to them to be able to express their opinion about reopening it.
Alderman Ashour.
There's 32 houses that are on Lakeview, and they obviously were the primary stimulation for the changes. I don't know if we should send them a survey, evaluate the results of the survey, and determine if we should have a meeting. On the petition, there was only one signature from a person on Lakeview, and it was somebody who hasn't lived there a long time. They did not experience the cut-through issue. It is worth it, because if we open that up, I go that way at all times of the day, and in the morning and the evening, the southbound traffic is solid all the way from Batavia Road to the tollway. And with a lot of that, high volume of that turning westbound on 56, we do have to be very cautious about what that opens up for the people that don't live here, that will just look for that as an avenue. And the concern previously was about safety. I would think that maybe the best way would be start with a survey of the people that actually live on Lakeview, furnish them with a little history and ask for opinion and some suggestions.
Yeah, that's good.
And then possibly based on that, move forward with a meeting that would be public.
All right, Alderman Bevere.
I'm sorry?
Were you done?
Say again?
I'm sorry if I cut you off. Alderman Bevere was next.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to see a public meeting on this too, and I don't know if it'd be possible to see the whole traffic counts and what a difference it made. And then, you know, we'd probably have to watch this with traffic count again. And if the problem, you know, gets bad, you know, it needs to be attended to right away. So I think a public meeting and getting all the people from Lakeview would be great.
Okay, Chief Toronto.
Yeah, just a couple things from experience and seeing these types of things occur when you put in restrictions at some type of an intersection. You obviously do it for a reason. Now, this was all discussed and put into place before I got here, but I received the information on the back end that one of the largest concerns was the cut-through traffic on Lakeview Drive. And again, from experience, what I can tell you, and if you look up at the map and we show Route 59 and then also Butterfield Road and then Barclay, and then you can see where if you're turning off of Continental and you jog to your left, you head up Lakeview Drive to intersect with Barclay where the restrictions are at now. I could almost guarantee you if you take these away, you're going to have more cut-through traffic. I mean, there's no two ways about it. People are going to be on Route 59, and even though they did improvements, driver behavior is such that if that backs up from the traffic light on Route 59 during rush hour, people will have the perception that even though it may be no quicker, rather than sitting in a stopped vehicle, if they're moving, they're getting somewhere. And if they can find that, and again, you have social media today, which is not going to make it any great secret, people are going to cut through. The same issue is that if you either are using the industrial park as a patron for Two Brothers, or if you're a customer at one of the businesses or an employee, and you have to go home at night, rather than trying to make a left turn on the Butterfield Road, it's going to be much quicker if you shoot down Lakeview Drive and you get to Continental and you have a controlled intersection with a traffic light to be able to get to Route 59, rather than turn out on the Butterfield Road, go down the Route 59, and then make your turn to go east or west. It's just quicker. And with cut-through traffic, the nature of the beast are they're public streets. and you cannot restrict the streets to people that live in the area only. They're public streets and you can use them, and that, again, my understanding was why they put the restrictions up. As far as doing traffic counts, it's going to be hard to assess the impact because we're not doing traffic counts now, nor have we done them since we put the restrictions in place. There was a monitoring for a while, and again, people, you know, their behavior is modified once they see the restrictions up, and you do some enforcement up there initially, and people don't do it. They don't make the turns. But to go there and do a traffic count now is not going to show, because if you don't have any violations, it's not going to show that you have cut through traffic. Obviously, if you remove them, that would be something from a personnel staffing standpoint that to be able to man that would be very, very difficult. I've even thought of on Barclay Avenue of putting no either right and left turn between certain hours of the day to try and lessen the impact. Most of the time those things are done, it's during daytime or business hours. Unfortunately, that leaves you with the evening hours, and especially during the summer, my thoughts would be the residents' concern would be kids that would be riding bikes, walking, what have you. In the area on Lakeview Drive, if you have a sign that restricts turns from Barclay on to Lakeview, both right and left-hand turns, depending on which way you're going, between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m., once that restriction is up, after 4 p.m., you're going to have cars going down there. So again, just in 44 years of doing this, something to consider going forward.
Okay, do we have any other comments? Let's go back to Alderman Ashour.
We actually closed the road for a period also. We actually blockaded it and made it into a dead end. And that wasn't very well received either. I mean, what you're suggesting about right turns and left turns kind of does the same thing. I mean, if there is no left turn when you're heading westbound on Lakeview, or no right turn when you're heading northbound on Barclay, it is effectively the same blockade.
Correct.
But it would require enforcement where what we have now is a little easier to manage.
True.
Those are the things that we have to, and I understand the concern with the rest of the people that live there.
Sure.
It is a pain, but it was a serious problem.
Right.
So I don't know of a better answer, but I know that the people on Lakeview need to be involved in the process.
Alderman Bevere.
Yeah, so if this does get changed, the left turn going northbound onto 59, that arrow, when the turning lanes are full, when you're headed eastbound on Butterfield, making a left turn to go northbound, half the turn lane makes it, and then it cuts the arrow off. So right there is a problem, and the guys are gonna go, I ain't gonna sit in that turn lane twice. I'm gonna make a left on Barclay. So that's another problem that's gonna have to be, dealt with the state. And just bringing up some pointers, that's all.
Okay, any more thoughts, any motions, any steps that anyone thinks we should take? Alderman Widener.
Yeah, I see that what we have is working. I think it's worthwhile to do a survey, but possibly, just for the police departments or whoever's going to manage the survey, a mail survey before we have a public meeting, I think might be the most time efficient and cost efficient method that we could employ, because unless there's an overwhelming outcry for opening up Lakeview, I think it's solving a problem that people don't realize has existed to the extent that it's that it had existed in the past. So, you know, the minute I think we, you know, do something to change that, there will be a free flow of traffic through there. And I think your professional advice to keep it sort of the way it is a sound one. And that, you know, I guess I'm leaning towards, you know, gathering some public input, but pretty much understand that it's doing a good job. Warrenville, you know, with Butterfield Road, 59, Galusha, you know, it's subject to a lot of cut-through traffic, you know, as part of its character. And I think, you know, wherever we can, I think we need to protect the residents from, you know, the potential cut-throughs, especially as the chief said, in the day and age of Waze and all these shortcuts that you can monitor on your phone and things like that, you know, by reducing speed limits and creating stop signs and methods such as this. I think we can help control the amount of cut-through traffic we see, because that only endangers the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, I can understand, you know, the impetus that people had to bring a petition like this forward. I remember going around the block twice myself when I was driving through Lakeview Drive once to put Warrenville and Bloom awards up in people's yards, and I went around and I was like, oh, can't go that way. Okay, and I drove in a circle. It was just this past summer, but the impetus from the residents is, and the petition that we got was signed by a lot of people who live along there, saying they didn't live on Lakeview Drive. You know, maybe they live on a cul-de-sac off of Lakeview Drive. It's a similar problem, and their kids are going to be playing in that block too. I think reaching out to the public to request their input is a reasonable thing, because we've been asked by our residents to consider this issue. And so prejudging that without hearing a little more seems premature to me. So, yes, Alderman Widener?
I guess, yeah, if I could get a motion started, people can feel free to add to it, but it just seems like doing a mail or email survey to the residents of Lakeview to gather input on the potential for removing and opening up the access at the end of Lakeview would be something that I would move on.
I second that. Do a survey just of the residents of Lakeview, get their responses, and at that point, depending upon the return, then we can decide whether or not we need to have a public meeting, or we can do something by council.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Mayor Brummel.
Perhaps we should include the residents on the cul-de-sacs that come off of Lakeview also. They're directly impacted. So I would move that you include that in your motion.
Yeah, that seems reasonable to me. What's the feeling, just to make this motion just a little bit broader? Alderman Berry?
Yes, I was just thinking the same thing, in that it really includes this whole area. There's Sunset Drive, Sunset Court, is it Harvest Court, Bayview Court, Lakeview Court? It really includes all those homes in there, because all these people have to drive on Lakeview Drive to either come out at Barclay or go out to Continental. So this barrier affects all these people in that subdivision of Summer Lakes.
Yes, and there are homes on Barclay Avenue as well, I believe. And one more cul-de-sac on that map, which isn't labeled, and I don't know off the top of my head. At the bottom.
Lakeview Court? Oh, it's not Lakeview Court, I'm not sure.
Anybody? All right, so we have a request to amend the motion. Did the motioner and the seconder agree to that request? Yes. All right, so we have a motion, we have a second, an amended motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Clerk, do you have that? Is it clear? Thank you.
Just one
Chief Toronto.
Yeah, just one comment, so we can clarify this. I'm sure the police department is going to be backing this or conducting this. And my thoughts would be, basically, do you favor the removal of the restrictions at the intersection of Lakeview and Barclay? Yes or no? My thoughts would be, it's pretty simple, straightforward. We can type that up, put it in an envelope. I can even have one of our community service officers, we can basically hand put that in every door along those areas. May not be this week because of the weather, but we can get it taken care of in a fairly expeditious manner. Unfortunately, the only thing you can never, with surveys, truly rely on is your response rate. If you only get, if there's 150 or 200 homes and you end up getting 7 or 8 people, that's really not representative of, the number of people that would be there. But it's probably the best way. I don't see how it'd be foreseeable to do it by email because we don't know those people's emails, addresses, and if we did something through SurveyMonkey, where we could put up a link and ask people to respond to it, we'd have to assign them some type of a code key because the survey would not be reliable, because if somebody would go in and vote early and vote often type of thing, you're filling out multiple surveys that, would not be good. So if the council doesn't hear, or the committee doesn't have a problem with that, that would be my thoughts on how we would do it.
All right, thank you, Chief. Yes, Alderman Weidner.
The only thing I was going to add to the survey is if you gave some background information as far as the history and maybe what your professional recommendation is after 44 years of, watching situations like this.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to, I don't know that I would do that because that would tend to kind of put a bias on the whole thing, but I can put that, prior to 2007, based on public complaint, research was conducted and and then this was decided upon,
Thank you.
Something factual and maybe not opinion-based.
Exactly.
Yes, brief. Brief sounds good. Brief is reasonable. Factual and brief, I like it. Alderman Ashour.
I think that some type of historical reference is important only because we've had a lot of changeover. And the people that have moved in don't even have a clue to the trouble that people were having, even getting out of the cul-de-sacs because of the speed and the volume of the traffic. And maybe we could do it by mail. I mean, I just got a mail from the street department about a sewer project in my backyard. So maybe we could coordinate with
we could do it by mail. I was just thinking if we kind of hand delivered them, but yeah, we can do it by mail.
Sure, I mean, whatever is most effective in your opinion. That sounds all right, because I think, the amount of postage involved would probably be less than the amount of the officer's time. But,
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Any other comments? Yes, Alderman Hoffman.
You'll probably get a lot better response if you mail it in a Warrenville police envelope. It's on. Yeah. Instead of a city of Warrenville envelope, it'll get their attention a little bit quicker. Thank you.
Okay. I think we're moving on from this item. Did you vote? Oh, no, we didn't vote. Did we vote? No, we didn't. Yeah, we. Okay, I'm being told. We voted. I remember us voting. Thank you. Moving on to item number 3, consideration of the Historical Society request for its director curator funding. Assistant City Administrator White.
Thank you. The Warrenville Historical Society has submitted a request for $15,000 from hotel tax funds for fiscal year 2020 to help cover the costs of the part-time museum director and curator. This request follows what the council has provided for the last 8 years, since 2010. And I believe we have members of the Historical Society here to help answer questions this evening, if anyone has any questions.
Well, let me first ask them if they want to say anything. So the people at home can hear you. We'd like it if you'd use the microphone.
I don't think it's on. can make sure it's on before you talk.
Thank you very much.
No, on the side there.
Strangers in the night.
Thank you.
Yes, we've appreciated your support, and we've tried to be really good custodians of the money, and we really tried to do as much as we can with it and to give you good return on your investment there. So we're hoping that you will, we don't take it lightly, the support you're giving this, and as guardians of Warrenville's history, we really try to get out there, meeting with the schools. Sarah Phelan, it does a wonderful job of interfacing with all the schools here on the tours we do and everything. So I just want to thank you for all of that and hope that you'll smile favorably on our request.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your, volunteerism and dedication to Warrenville's history. The people involved in the Historical Society deserve our thanks as well. I had the opportunity to work with Sarah Phelan on the 50th anniversary committee last year. Oh gosh, I guess it's 2017, but it feels like last year. And I was very impressed with the opportunity to get to work with her on that. Any comments or discussion? Alderman Ashour?
I'd just like to recommend the City Council approve the Warrenville Historical Society's grant request in the amount of $15,000 from the Hotel Tax Fund to cover the cost of their part-time museum director curator, and direct staff to include this funding in the fiscal year 2020 budget.
Second.
Second by, say, Alderman Bevere or Alderman Wilson, either one. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. All right, moving on quickly to item number 4, consideration to award the bid for a voice-over IP telecommunications system in the amount of $71,815 to FICHEC Electric and Communications Systems Incorporated. Assistant City Administrator White.
Thank you. Included in the fiscal year 2019 budget is a decision package for the replacement of the city's phone system. You may recall during last year's budget discussions, we talked about the current phone system was purchased in 2008. It is a 3Com system, which is no longer supported and manufactured. We have had some challenges with the system, but fortunately it's made its way through to this current time, luckily. We have issued an RFP as of November, a request for proposals. We've received 6 proposals from 6 different companies with voice over IP systems, which is similar to what we have. It's the same as what we have now. With the assistance of the consultant that the city hired, city staff reviewed and scored those vendor proposals. Details of the process that was followed was in the memo included in the backup for the packet. We selected 3 vendors for follow-up and ultimately selected Avaya as the phone system installed by FICHEC Electric and Telecommunications. There's a few key things I want to point out, and I'm going to try not to get overly technical on all of the aspects of the phone system, but it is a voice-over IP system like our current system. Staff is recommending installing the main equipment for the phone system at the police department rather than City Hall. Currently, our internet is the starting point for our city internet is at the police department, and our IT consultants have recommended that for troubleshooting and resolving problems, it makes sense to have your phone system and your internet sourced from the same location. So that would be a change rather than having the phone system here going over our fiber to the police and public works buildings. It would start at the police department and come here into public works via our private fiber network. And then ultimately, this new system is more user-friendly and has more functionality for administering the phone system, which Kevin and I would sincerely appreciate because the current system has been a challenge, to say the least, from time to time to deal with and administer some of the day-to-day changes that occur when you have to change voicemail settings or set a voicemail all of a sudden because there's some issue going on in town. The current system is not very user-friendly. So this new system appears to be much more user-friendly. The city attorney has recommended some changes to the proposal and a more formal agreement, which will be included in the packet for the city council meeting next week. So there will be some minor revisions to the proposal that was included in this packet. So therefore, if the committee chooses to make that recommendation to the city council to accept our recommendation and our proposal, we would ask that you include at the end of the motion pending attorney review, so that we can make those changes for the next meeting. Also with us this evening is David Wilson, who is the consultant that the city hired to help with the technical aspects of selecting the phone system and drafting the request for proposal. So if you have any specific questions about the process or what we undertook to get to this point, he can help us answer those questions as well. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Does the consultant have anything he'd like to say to start out? No, just to respond to questions. Okay, any comments or questions? I have one, which has to do with dollar amounts. In the chart where you ranked the different bids by system cost, the amount for FiCheck was $65,666 in the first year and $96,747 as a 5-year total. And then later on, page 5 of 5, it says the purchase price of the telephone system proposal is $71,815. So that's a revision for the first year. Will that also have consequences for the 5-year total? How does this gonna stack up? What are the numbers?
Sure. The first year total, we requested each of the vendors to propose what we called a base bid with basic phone system, phone components in one location, and all of the telephones and different equipment that goes with that. But part of what we requested in the proposal was additional failover provisions. So with that, we would have equipment mainly installed at the police department. We would have a backup unit installed here at City Hall, and the way that that would work, in addition to SIP trunks installed in both locations, which don't ask me what that means, but it's part of the phone system. That would provide some failover in the event something occurred at the police department. We could still continue to operate the phone system, answer calls, make calls by bypassing to the City Hall building. That is not a function we have currently, so that was something that we wanted to have added to the proposal, which is why the first year cost is more than what the initial proposal was. The additional years 2 through 5, those are maintenance costs for them to come out in the event that we have any issues with the equipment or the system. They will troubleshoot, they'll access the system remotely. So those are the maintenance and service costs for years 2 through 5, and those will not go up. We have confirmed that those are the numbers for the 2 through 5 maintenance costs.
Okay, so there's no percentage, which includes this change in the initial year cost of about $6,200.
Correct.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Anyone want to make a motion? Alderman Widener.
Motion to recommend the city council approve a resolution authorizing agreement with FISEC Electric and Communication Systems Incorporated for the procurement and installation of an Avaya VoIP telecommunications system in the amount of $71,815 pending attorney review.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, moving on to item number 5, the solicitations, consideration to the police department request to solicit and accept donations for the local 2019 National Night Out Against Crime event, which you've already heard a little bit about earlier this evening during our award recognition. So take it away, Chief.
Thank you, Chairman. Mark your calendars already. Tuesday, August 9th, 2019, from 5 to 9 p.m. is when we are scheduling our National Night Out, and annually we ask for permission from the City Council for the Police Department to solicit donations of monetary or in-kind donations for the Police Department. Included in the backup agenda material, we have a sample letter that we will send out to residents and members of our business community in seeking those donations. And if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions? Alderman Wilson.
My only comment, you're going to be shooting for number 20 instead of 23, and they said,
Yeah,
how about number 1?
We're going to try. Yeah, we'll do our best.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend the city council approve the request solicitation donations for the August 6th, 2019 National Night Out event.
Motion by Alderman Wilson, second by Alderman Berry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6, consideration to designate 2 aldermen to work with the city administrator to develop protocols for honoring former and current city officials after their passing. City Administrator Coakley.
Thank you. This matter, as I noted in the summary, has arisen. The question comes up from time to time. There's not a massive amount of people asking, but it will come up as how do we honor a certain person who passed away, who was an alderman or former mayor. Sometimes it's a prominent citizen, but in discussions with Alderman Goodman and I were discussing this and thought we probably want to try to stay focused on city officials. There's challenges to it, and the problem is there's no current protocols, whether we lower the city flag, which is the only flag we can lower without lowering the state flag, which would violate the flag protocols, is on the memorial. There's a question whether or not the person should be a veteran or not to have that honor because it's on their Veterans Memorial. So just in that conversation, there's so many possibilities that could come up. We thought probably the best thing is to have the council designate 2 aldermen. They can work with me. We'll come up with some recommendations to bring back to the council. That way we'd at least have some guidelines that when such an occurrence, at some point, that will happen to all of us, at some point that happens, and then there's a fairly automatic process where we know what should be done to properly honor those people that have served their community. So you'll notice that unusually there are 2 blanks in the summary because I don't want to presume who's going to be doing this. I'm sure that you're all anxious to work with me on this item. But if 2 could be designated or there's some volunteers and there's a consensus, then we can set up a time frame. Hopefully it's a very efficient, short process, and we're back to you in the next couple of meetings. But if it takes a little longer, then we'll be back when we have something cogent and appropriate to present as a recommendation. If there's any questions, I'm sure I'd be happy to answer them, or Alderman Goodman certainly may wish to as well.
Thank you. The only thing I would add is that one obvious step is to look at the surrounding communities and see what their policies are, and I believe that is mentioned in your summary memo. Just initial discussions I've had with local residents and other members of the council, it seemed to me like people think it might be a good idea for us to have a policy on this issue. Just within the past couple of weeks, we've seen the passing of several local mayors and former mayors who really made an impact on their communities. And it just got us thinking that, and the passing of our dear friend Dwight Lund got us thinking about this issue, and so we thought we should take action on this sooner rather than later so that we have a policy in place, whatever that ends up being, to honor and respect people who've served Warrenville. So is there any interest in, yes, Alderman Bevere?
Yeah, I'd be interested in being on the committee.
Thank you. I'll be the other one if people don't object. Okay, so Alderman Widener?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. Make a motion to recommend the city council designate Alderman Goodman and Alderman Bevere to work with the city administrator to draft a policy or protocol to honor former and current city officials when they pass away.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item number 7, consideration of the staff recommended updates to the Capital Maintenance and Replacement Plan, the CMRP. I'll go to Finance Director Dahlstrand.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. As required by the CMRP, which is our Capital Maintenance and Replacement Plan, the staff has conducted their annual review of the costs through calendar year 2018. Included with your backup tonight is the recommended adjustments to the CMRP. bottom line would be a 1.2% increase to the total bottom line of that CMRP, which would make our annual average operating cost $2,177,266. The list was compiled by myself, Deputy Public Works Director Kukler, and Senior Civil Engineer Hocking. We would ask that you approve the updates to the CMRP, and we will then update that through the end of 2018.
Thank you. Normally, when we update the CMRP, we consider not only the additional costs that we're adding, but whether it's necessary to add any additional revenue to the CMRP, right? And because this is a small amount, your recommendation is that we not reassess that now?
Well, annually during our meeting in January, we addressed the cost. We will address the issues surrounding CMRP revenue during the budget as we work through that as well. It will also be likely we will need to convene the CMRP work group as we get into the new fiscal year to kind of take a look at the program itself, the revenues that are involved in it, because the actual revenues have changed a bit from our original assumption when the plan was adopted in 2011.
Okay, that's good information to have. So in other words, more information coming, stay tuned. Alderman Weidner?
Make a motion to recommend the city council accept the updates of the capital maintenance and replacement plan for 2018 per the staff memo dated January 24th, 2019, and direct staff to incorporate those adjustments into an updated CMRP document.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Weidner, second by Alderman Wilson. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8 is discussion of the fiscal year 2020 citywide work plan. City Administrator Coakley.
Thank you. This is two things. One is it is on every meeting through the budget workshop, just to make sure there's time for aldermen or the mayor to ask questions and comments and staff to give feedback. Secondly, there was a lot of discussion at the meeting 2 weeks ago. Staff has taken those into account and made some adjustments accordingly. Specific was about the strategic plan project management. I think there was one more, Christina. No, there was not one more. That was the primary one that we changed. So if there's comments, questions, or feedback on that or anything else that's on here, we'll be happy to address those questions.
Okay, I mean, there's a lot of items on here that are new, all of these green highlighted items, and quite a few of those we'll hear more about during the budget process, like the citywide technology needs assessments, the application kiosk, and the community development lobby, things that we've not discussed in the past and we have essentially no information about right now, but that's all going to be discussed more in the future.
Yes.
Any comments or questions? Now's your shot. All right. I don't need a motion to move on from this, so we will move to item number 9, an informational update, the Enterprise Resource Planning implementation. There is a memo from Finance Director Dahlstrand, which I believe has one mistake in it about a go-live date of August 5th, 2018. I'm pretty sure that's not what you meant. Yeah.
It's going well.
But if anyone has any questions, I'm interested in an explanation of the toll gate review. Sorry, I don't know what that is, and the explanation here doesn't.
Would you like to
Just
ask
doesn't-
anything else? No, I'm sorry. The toll gate review is a chance for members of the steering committee, and in this case, it's been Christina, myself, and senior accountant Beltran. It's a chance for us to provide feedback to Mesa Global on how they have handled our implementation so far. There's been 2 completed phases of that, and in each of those, we get a chance to go back and provide our rating or grading of how that's gone so far, and to provide comments on anything that we think has gone well, or things that we think haven't gone quite so well. So it allows us to provide that to them, and so they can make any changes that they may need to make as a result of our comments.
Okay, and I see that there are some issues with communication, so hopefully that's going to be worked out as a result of the evaluations.
It's been an ongoing issue. I don't want to make it a huge issue, but it has, there's been a little bit of communication issue. It really hasn't caused any big hiccups in what we're doing, but it's things we'd like to have run a little smoother than it has so far.
Okay, and I know we've moved the date back, but you don't anticipate that being moved back anymore?
No, at this point, everything says through the implementation that we would go live the week of August 5th.
Okay, all else being equal. Any other comments or questions, Alderman? No. City Administrator Coakley.
Thank you. As I'm listening to Kevin's comments, and I just want to express my appreciation again to all the employees that are very involved in this, especially our finance director, our assistant city administrator, and our senior accountant. They're spending up to, or maybe even exceeding, half of their work time over the last year and going forward on this. And then there's a whole host of other employees, and sometimes even me, that gets brought into meetings and spends time on it. But they're really leading this effort and working diligently on it. And it's not just that they're spending 40 hours and half of it's on this. They're doing all their normal duties and assignments and more, plus all of this. So, I mean, we're all salaried, so 40 hours is a meaningless number, but I just want to acknowledge that. You see these reports and it's, okay, great, this is on track and it's going ahead, but they're really diligently moving this forward, and the timelines are very tight, so someone had the insight and wisdom to hire the Baycor group to help us manage the whole Mazik group, because this is an enormous undertaking for the resources that's required for what the outcomes should be and will be once it's implemented. But there's a lot of training, there's a lot of time involved, and there's a lot of money of the city that's involved. It's way over $1.5 million plus for the entire system, the consultants, the design that we've spent to date. Now I'm getting puzzled looks because I'm making specific number references, but it's a lot of city money and a lot of time and resources, and I appreciate all their work. Thank you.
Thanks for mentioning that. I suppose I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but in the next item that talks about updates on the decision packages, and just in line with what the city administrator was saying, I noticed that the finance department decision package about temporary contract personnel, they haven't yet utilized any temporary personnel, which is kind of amazing. I mean, if we can move on to that item, the informational updates on all the administration, finance, and police department fiscal year 2019 work plans and decision packages. My comment on this is just that, the finance department seems stretched very thin and yet still hasn't used any temporary personnel. And I mean, I appreciate your very hard work on that. I guess part of my question is why?
Well, because I'm cheap, for what, no. We have just not hit the point where that has been required yet. We've been able to staff our department and keep servicing our residents with the staff we have on hand. The majority of the time has been spent by myself and Leo Beltran, our senior accountant. The other three individuals in our department are capable of handling virtually anything that goes on down there without us right there, and we're always within an arm's reach anyway. They can always text me or reach out to me and email when they've had to. So I don't like to spend any more taxpayer money than I have to. And at this point, we really haven't had the need to do that. I do foresee the need at some point that we will have to, as we begin to test our system and get more of our staff involved in the day-to-day or in the testing of the day-to-day procedures that we'll have in place after it goes live, because they will need to know how it works and that kind of thing. So as they become more and more involved, I can certainly say we will have to have some help. We just haven't had to have it yet.
Now, that is what I like to hear. I mean, a staff member saying he doesn't want to spend any more taxpayer money than he has to and is willing to work harder to make that happen, that's such an admirable sentiment, and you're showing yourself off much more than I could by giving you compliments. So thank you.
Welcome.
All right, any other comments or questions on item number 10? All right, moving on to G1, we have one commendation in the backup materials, which is a letter to the police department from the West Chicago Police Department about the great work that Dorothy Weihofen provided. So thank you. Oh, yes, and letters on the back, Chief Toronto.
Yeah, in the West Chicago incident, they had 2 homicides in 2018, one on August 14th, one on November 9th. A number of our detectives and evidence technicians worked with the Major Crimes Task Force to bring those cases to a successful culmination. A total of 6 individuals were arrested and charged with numerous counts of first-degree murder. Those people are in DuPage County Jail awaiting trial. And the other one I think is specifically noteworthy and shows that we dealt with an emotionally disturbed person on December 14th. 2 of our officers, Officer Newtoff and Officer McCurris, went to the scene and began helping locate an individual who had left the care of their guardians. They located the individual who was extremely distraught and were able to intercede along with their counselor on scene to get the person the help that they needed. It's noteworthy to know that we send our officers, and all of them have been trained in crisis intervention techniques. So these are things that they practice, and it's really nice to get the recognition that these 2 officers and all of our officers do on a daily basis. So we appreciate it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So thank you very much to them. All right. I'm going to add one thing on a personal note, which is get well wishes for Alderman Davalos, who's hopefully watching us safely ensconced at home. But I only need one more motion. Alderman Weidner.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.